and then once it's green, you know that.
Okay, I think we have almost everyone here, so we'll go ahead and get started.
Yes, we have quorum now.
Okay, thank you, Revelia. All right, well, welcome everyone to our September 29th Social Equity Working Group meeting. It is really good to be in person. This has been our first meeting in person for a long time, so it's just good to be able to put more than our squares to the full person in the flesh. So, but my name is Tuere Faola, and I'm just going to kick off today's meeting. And I am really happy that we're able to this is not only our first meeting, but this is our first meeting of our new cycle of the Regional Plan Social Equity Working Group. So we had a prior cycle who had just ended and the June timeframe. So this is actually not only our first meeting, but the first meeting of our new Regional Plan Social Equity Working Group. But before we begin today's meeting, I would like to ask today's interpreter, Luisa, to introduce herself and walk us through how to access our interpretation services for today's meeting.
Thank you so much. Good morning. To use the interpretation features so you can listen in English, please scroll to the bottom of the Zoom screen where the meeting controls are. Click on the interpretation icon, which is a world, and select English as your language. If you are joining using a Zoom mobile app through your cell phone, tablet, etc., please press the ellipsis, then interpretation, and then choose your language. Para hacer uso del servicio de interpretación, favor de desplazarse a la parte inferior de la pantalla de Zoom, donde aparecen los controles. Haga clic en el icono de interpretación, que es un globo terráqueo o un mundito, y seleccione Spanish, español. Si está utilizando la aplicación móvil de Zoom, celular, tableta, etc., presione los puntos suspensivos, luego Interpretation y luego el idioma, que en su caso sería español. Gracias. Thanks again.
Thank you, Luisa. So I'd like to ask our clerk, Evelia, to take roll call attendance for us.
Bayside Community Center, Rose Ceballos.
Present.
Casa Familiar, Goy Ortiz.
Here.
City Heights Community Development Corporation, Jesse Ramirez. El Cajon Collaborative, Carol Lewis.
Present.
Samahan Health Centers, Faye Salahem.
Present.
Urban Collaborative Project, Brian. Vista Community Clinic, Erica Leary. South Bay Community Services.
Did you get Rachel?
Yes.
If we missed anyone, could you ask them to introduce themselves?
Okay, if we missed anyone, could you please introduce yourself?
This is Belen Hernandez, Policy Advocate with Mid-City Kent.
Thank you, Belen. Okay, I believe that concludes our roll call. Do we have anyone else? Oh, Rachel.
Just for the record, we're SBCS Court, South Bay Community.
Okay, thank you. We'll reflect that for the record. Okay, so moving on, unfortunately, our chair is not able to join us. Many of you know that Councilmember Vivian Moreno is out on maternity leave. So our first order of business will be to select a chair for this meeting. And so Barry has volunteered, and I would ask if we could have an official motion from someone to nominate Barry to serve as our chair pro tempore for this meeting. And then I would also ask for a second. So if I could have a motion, please.
I make a motion to have Barry serve as our chair this meeting.
Thank you, Carol.
I'll second that.
And Goyo has seconded. Thank you so much. So now that we have a motion and a second, this will allow Barry to chair the meeting. And so if I could also ask everyone in favor to please raise your hand. Thank you. So we have everyone in favor. And so with that, I'd like to turn over to Barry to run the rest of our meeting.
Thank you, too. Thierry, thank you as well. Before we begin with our agenda items, I'd like to review the meeting process for both the working group members as well as members of the public who wish to participate. Before we get going, it is really good to see everyone again in person, huh? It's good to see it. So I'm excited about it, as you can probably tell. For working group members, when you would like to speak, please raise your hand and I'll call on you by name. In front of you are iPads, where you will find today's agenda and supporting materials by clicking on the arrow on the top left. Please note that you can zoom in and out using the iPad touchscreen. Avilia, can you provide a quick reminder on how the public comments will work, please?
As noted on the cover page of today's meeting agenda, in addition to emailed comments, the public also may provide live comments during today's meeting. If you are a member of the public here in the room and would like to provide comments on an item, please submit a speaker slip to the clerk. If you are a member of the public joining on a Zoom, please raise your virtual hand during the item you'd like to comment on. The raise hand feature can be found on the Zoom toolbar for those who are joining via computer or by entering *9. For those joining via telephone, the clerk will call on members of the public by name of those joining via computer and by the last 3 digits of your telephone number for those joining via telephone. The instructions for providing live comments also are on the bottom of the cover page of today's meeting agenda, which can be accessed from the homepage of SANDAG's website at www.sandag.org. Thank you.
Avilia, thank you. So, do any members of the working group have any questions before we continue? Some of you are new coming in here, so parking was fine and finding everything was good. Okay. Okay. Then let's start with item number 1, welcome and introductions. As this is our first time meeting, we're going to go around and let each member introduce themselves, their organizations, and which areas they serve. I'll start. My name is Barry Pollard from the Urban Collaborative Project, and we serve the southeastern San Diego area. So, Rachel, you want to start us off?
Hello. Hi, my name is Rachel Moreno, and I'm with SBCS, formerly known as South Bay Community Services. And we serve mostly the South Bay region, but we do have contracts throughout.
Sorry, please push the button down on it.
See the green
So
light?
it's green?
Come on.
There you go.
My name is Rachel Moreno, and I'm with SBCS Corp., formerly known as South Bay Community Services. We predominantly serve the South Bay region, but we do have contracts throughout the county of San Diego. Thank you.
Welcome.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Erica Leary. I'm with Vista Community Clinic up in North Coastal San Diego County. Most of our SANDAG work has focused in the communities in Oceanside, but we do some work throughout the North Coastal region. Thank you.
I'm Fess Seligman with Samahan Health Centers. And for this project, we serve the city of National City and the southern area of San Diego, but we also provide services in the north central Mira Mesa, Rancho Penasquitos area of San Diego County.
Hello, everybody. Good morning. My name is Jesse Ramirez. I'm with City Heights CDC, and we serve the City Heights community.
Great, thanks, Jesse.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Rose Ceballos, and I'm with Bayside Community Center, and we serve the Linda Vista area of San Diego.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Goyo Ortiz from Casa Familiar. We serve the South Bay San Isidro community, as well as some services in Barrio Logan.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Carol Lewis. I'm with El Cajon Collaborative. So we serve the city of El Cajon, but we also serve the East County region.
Good morning. This is Belen Hernandez with Mid-City CAN. We are based in City Heights, but we also have regional projects.
Okay. Oh. That's okay. Push the button and introduce yourself.
Hi, good morning, everyone. My name is Veronica Aguilar. I am from the Chula Vista Community Collaborative, and I would say we covered Chula Vista. Good morning.
Good, welcome. Welcome. Okay, I think we have introduced everyone. Are there any comments, questions from the working group at all? No? Okay. Now, I guess, do we have any comments on the public, from the public on any items? Please.
Yes, we do. Craig Jones. I'm sorry, do we have any in person? We have one virtual, but I was announcing if we have any in-house public comments.
Yes.
Mr. Jones, can you please hold? Thank you.
And you would like to speak on which item, sir?
This is a public comment, a general public comment for item 2.
Okay, excellent.
Not on any of the agenda items. My name is Timothy Bylash. Thank you so much, committee, for allowing me to speak this morning. I hope it's on point. I am in central San Diego coastal, and today I'd like to speak to the committee about 3 succinct general topics. The first, I hope it's okay that I mention the SANDAG board meeting on Friday because I believe it enters into social equity. I was very disappointed about the discussion for the regional transportation plan. This seems to go back and forth like a political football. And I was very disappointed in the demagoguing and bullying I saw at times by some members about that, and I thought it was worthwhile mentioning it. The board dutifully presented the requested 4 options that I understand was requested at the July 8th meeting. And they fulfilled the requirements, but yet they were demagogued. And I think that's inappropriate. I want to support the board. I want to support the members and staff and all the people that work hard for that. Councilman Jack Hsu brought to our attention that if we want to deal with climate, particularly the CO2 reductions, need to be 30 to 35% by 2035. That's the calculations. The RTP was presented with a 21%, and we're talking about finagling numbers to make it look like we're doing better than we do as usual. And we've already, as a county, as I understand, been sanctioned for past decisions in that board. So I wanted to raise that issue. CNN this morning brought up the issue of carbon dioxide, that if we stopped producing carbon dioxide, then global warming would get no worse. That's where we are right now. And I see I have a minute. So I wanted to mention something else I heard on television and the radio. Bill Walton, a former NBA star, made a public comment about our current San Diego City mayor, and particularly how we're ignoring homelessness. And I see that myself. We seem to care about either wealthy, someone that looks like me, someone that sounds like me, or someone that belongs to my gang. And I think we need to be a little more transparent about our own biases when we deal with these. I'd like to mention the need for women's equity. I'm a board-certified OBGYN practicing for 31 years. I've never been tapped by any organization or meeting in my 31-year career as providing women's health care. I'd also like to make a pitch for looking at adolescent male equity, because the 50% that never go on to higher education are really drowning, and a lot of them are getting angry and lost. So I hope these comments are okay. You'll notice, you can't see, I'm wearing a Yankee cap. I grew up in New York, and yesterday Jeter went to 61 home runs. The Yankees have clinched the Eastern Pennant. I wanted to mention that for the New Yorkers around, but I also wanted to, Judge, and I wanted to mention Maris is 61 and Mantle's 54 for that, because please don't forget it.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Jones, you can go ahead.
And I believe there's someone online? One person, and that would be Tim? Gotcha. Okay.
Mr. Jones, you can go ahead when ready.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Just very briefly, former member of the previous cycle of the Social Equity Working Group. Hello to my colleagues there. It's my pleasure to monitor the continuing work of the Social Equity Working Group. And just briefly note that the County of San Diego, I believe, has formed or will be forming a social equity committee, a similar working group related to the regional decarbonization framework. So I hope the two can work in concert with each other. Thank you very much.
Okay.
That concludes the commenters on this item.
Excellent. Thank you so much. So I guess we're in chair item, which one? Not two. Okay, if working group members would like to offer any comments based upon, not on today's agenda, then you can do so raising your hand if you have any topics you want to discuss not on the agenda item. No? There is one. Oh, yes. Hi, Carol.
Hi, Carol Lewis with El Cajon Collaborative. And I just wanted to mention that Sandag staff will be at our next El Cajon Collaborative meeting on Tuesday to talk about the I-8 multimodal corridor on the Kumeyaay. So I invite you all to attend. It's both virtual and in person. So
Oh, nice.
I will send the link to Kat so you can join.
Excellent. Good, good, good. Do we have any comments from the public on any items not on today's agenda, other than what we just heard? Okay. So moving on to the next
No further.
item. I'm sorry?
She was just going to announce for the record that there were no further public comments.
Excellent. Okay, we can move on to the next item now. Okay, item number 3 is the approval of the meeting minutes. If working group members would like to offer any comments or questions, please raise your hand for discussion. So take us a few seconds to review it if you haven't. No questions, no comments. Okay, good. Do we have any comments from the public, clerk?
There are no hands raised for this item.
Excellent. Good, good, good. May I have a motion to approve this item, please? Anyone want a motion?
Carol, I make a motion to approve the minutes.
Motion made by Carol and
I second
seconded
the motion.
by Faye. Excellent. Good. Thank you, ladies. I guess we've got the motion. Those in favor, please raise your hands. Am I allowed to vote or no? Yeah? Okay. Unanimous?
Thank you. That motion passes unanimously with those members present.
Good, good, good. Moving on to item number 4. Today, we have Tueri. She's the principal regional planner who will provide us updates on Sandag's initiative.
Thank you, Barry. And our Senior Director of Regional Planning, Antoinette Meyer, she wanted to be here to be able to give these comments today, but unfortunately she had a conflict that she couldn't be here, but she sends her regards and she's looking forward to being able to join you all in person. But I have just some updates for you from her that I'd like to just report out on. So our Youth Opportunity Pass and MTS's annual report. First, talking about that one, the first 4 months of the Youth Opportunity Pass have been a huge success, thanks obviously to many of you who've been helping us and supporting in that program. Youth ridership continues to be up. May and June saw the highest youth ridership. We saw a slight dip during the summer months, which is expected when it's summer and children are not going to school and with summer vacations. But with school back in session and the big push with the back to school outreach, we are expecting September ridership to spike back up. MTS released its MTS fiscal year 2022 ridership annual report earlier this month, and they are seeing significant growth in ridership across all services, and transit is recovering from the pandemic and getting much closer to pre-pandemic levels. And the fiscal year 2022 ridership increased nearly 50% over the prior year, fiscal year 2021, with 57 million riders. A major milestone is also coming up for the request for innovative concepts that was released last November. If you recall, we had asked the private sector to tell us about their ideas for transportation connector services to help us accelerate the delivery of projects for the regional plan that achieve our goals of mobility, climate, and equity. We received 18 proposals that were shortlisted to 3, and the 3 requests for innovative concept finalists will present their work publicly for the first time and take feedback from the community on Sunday, October 9th at the Sandag Community Fair at Rocco Park. I hope we can count on you to join us for that event and celebration and get the word out to your communities. There'll also be a lot of other Sandag booths talking about a lot of the different work that our agency does. The other update I'd like to give is on Otay Mesa East. Last month, we broke ground for the Otay Mesa East project, and this month, Sandag and Caltrans District 11 celebrated receiving the largest grant in federal funding from the Infrastructure for Rebuilding America grant program. The project received $150 million towards building the new border crossing. We also had another good news story in terms of funding that our region received for the Del Mar Bluffs Low Sand Corridor. We received $300 million from the state for the Low Sand Rail Realignment Project, and this will allow us to environmentally clear, design, and once and for all move the tracks off of the Del Mar Bluffs. And then, last thing that I wanted to mention was that in late August, the 2021 regional plan was approved by California Air Resources Board, otherwise known to many of us as CARB. And while this is definitely a significant milestone for a region because the state and federal money will be allowed to continuously flow through the region, particularly for those 2 funding sources that I just mentioned. If we have an approved plan in place, that's important to have CARB's acceptance. But in September, we received a request from board leadership to come back to the board with options for removing the road usage charge from the regional plan, which we just did last Friday. And at the board meeting, you may have heard, and our public speaker earlier today mentioned this, that the board voted to amend the 2021 regional plan to remove remove the road usage charge. And this will be about a year-long process to develop that amendment and to go through the supplemental environmental impact report, update the revenue assumptions for that amendment to take place. So the amendment will have to be submitted again to our state and federal agencies for approval next summer. We'll make sure to bring updates continuously to the board, and we'll be happy to provide updates to this group as well. But I do want to just let you know that we are still moving forward with the development of the 2025 regional plan, and the choice that was made at the board will not impact our ability to continue to move forward with the update of the 2025 plan. But again, we'll continue to bring this group updates on that process as it unfolds. And that concludes my chair's report.
Okay, Terry, thank you very much. Are there any questions by any working group members on anything that was just shared? No? Okay. I can tell you guys, it's going to take us time to get a little energy, get going with questions. I get it. I get it. Okay.
I'm warming up.
Okay, I know. There's coffee up there if anyone's interested. Okay, any comments from the public on anything that was shared?
We have one in-person public comment and no other virtual public comments at the moment.
Okay, I think that was probably this gentleman.
That's for number 5.
Right. Okay, yes, this one.
My apologies, Chair. There are no public comments on this item.
All right, excellent. Okay, item number 5. We'll now hear an update of the Equity Action Plan and the Language Assistance Plan that we had worked on last year from Ms. Elizabeth Cox from Sandag. Welcome.
Good morning. Good morning, everyone. It's so nice to see you all again. Some familiar faces and some that are new. So I'm pleased to be able to provide this update to you today. And the slides aren't advancing. There we go. Thank you. So just as a reminder, last year, our board of directors adopted a statement that affirms Sandag's commitment to equity. And within it are 5 clear expectations for what our equity action plan should do. Those objectives are shown here on the slide. And the people and communities we serve, as well as these objectives, were centered during the process of developing our equity action plan. Many of our Sandag teammates have contributed to getting us to this point, and as we say, every employee has the potential to advance equity here at Sandag and within the region that we serve. A group of directors was convened to serve as executive sponsors for our equity action plan, and these sponsors identified employees that served as the project team to bring life experience and expertise from the different program areas that they work in. It was very important to us that Sandag involved third-party consultants to bring an unbiased perspective to the process of developing our equity action plan. And in partnership with our consultants from GCAP and UPD Consulting, an approach and work plan came together this spring. Like many organizations, we are on a DEI journey. And to begin the process of developing our equity action plan, our consultants reviewed all of the work that Sandag had done to date. This included a volume of expectations and feedback that was informed by input on major regional planning efforts, employee surveys, the Global Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Benchmarks Assessment that we conducted last summer, and the inventory of equity activities that we compiled last fall. Our teammates in the data and planning departments are wrapping up the equity baseline report that will provide metrics for us to measure the effectiveness of implementing our equity action plan. So as we look back at 2022, we kicked off the year with an update to the board in January, and our project work began in March. In May, through surveys of internal and external stakeholders, our consultants gained insights into what should be prioritized in our equity action plan. And that input was used to develop discussion guides for a series of 5 workshops that took place in June and July. A cohort of 16 employees, including agency leadership, employees, and stakeholders representing partner agencies and community-based organizations, came together to prioritize outcomes, goals, strategies, and metrics for the Equity Action Plan. I can tell you it was an amazing experience, and our consultants were so impressed with the level of commitment and collaboration that this cohort brought together. In the weeks ahead, the Equity Action Plan will be written using all of the input that we've gathered, expertise and experiences along the way, not just limited to this summer, but the past several years and all of that work that had been done previously. The Equity Action Plan will be presented to the board later this year. And while the plan is still being developed, we continue to take action and shape plans that demonstrate our commitment to equity. And I'd like to highlight a few of those for you today. So I mentioned the social equity baseline report that will be completed this fall. And as you've heard before, themes include demographics, economic vitality, health and the environment, and connectivity, and 25 indicators are being disaggregated by race and ethnicity. The complex problems of economic, inequity, and environmental issues are interconnected, as you well know. And SANDAG has been localizing data for the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, or SDGs. The SDG dashboard is the first use case for the SANDAG Open Data Portal that went live a few weeks ago. And the dashboard enables jurisdictions and stakeholders to view data across these issues, to identify synergies in policies and public investments, and to align strategic planning around these shared global goals. In March, we hosted a workshop with the City and County of San Diego, and in May, we met with partners in Mexico to incorporate cross-border data and to bridge connections to existing GIS portals that were already in place. The Open Data Portal is available now, and the full SDG dashboard is anticipated to launch this fall. In December of last year, the board adopted the Digital Equity Strategy and Action Plan. And one of the first actions from that is the Get Connected program, which you've probably heard is a partnership that's ensuring everyone in our community has equal access to all of the education, economic, and social opportunities that are available through a reliable, affordable internet connection. Since May, we've encouraged the enrollment of an additional 2,600 subscriptions to the Affordable Connectivity Program, including 1,100 direct referrals to digital equity resources. In June, we held a joint workshop with the Southern California Tribal Chairmen's Association to explore opportunities to improve internet connectivity on tribal lands. As Taweri just mentioned, the Social Equity Early Action Transit Pilot and Youth Opportunity Pass has been a huge success, so I won't repeat everything that she just shared, but we're really pleased about how this is going and appreciate all of the support that you've provided along the way. As you probably know, the pilot is currently scheduled to go through June of next year. The SANDAG Pre-Apprenticeship Program is now in its 6th cohort and graduates a class of students every 12 weeks. The program is a building block to expand the suite of opportunities that ensure pathways to quality jobs in construction. The first 5 cohorts graduated 84 individuals, of which 42% were Hispanic or Latino, 13% were Black, 18% were women, and 26% had previous criminal justice involvement. To date, 55% of graduates have been placed in an apprenticeship program. Following creation of the Regional Equitable Housing Subcommittee in December 21, the subcommittee met monthly between February and June of this year to discuss their work plan that supports developing a regional equitable housing strategy, evaluating a regional housing finance agency, and investing possible revenue opportunities to support housing. SANDAG launched the Housing Policy Leadership Academy in February of this year to provide educational opportunities that support elected officials, advocates, and interested stakeholders to build local support for pro-housing policies. The SANDAG Access for All grant program will fund projects and programs that expand on-demand wheelchair accessible vehicle services for people with disabilities. The Cycle 1 call for projects was released in May. Applications were due in August, and funding recommendations will be presented to the board next month in October. The SANDAG Specialized Transportation Grant Program funds projects and programs that expand mobility options for older adults and individuals with disabilities. And eligible projects include purchase of accessible vans and buses, volunteer driver programs, shopping shuttles, and non-emergency medical trips. The Cycle 12 call for projects was released in July, and applications are due next month. Also, since we last presented to you, several activities have progressed to advance diversity, equity, and inclusion within SANDAG amongst our employees. And our DEI Council, of which Tueri is our fabulous chair, shared information and held events with employees to honor and celebrate Black History Month, Cesar Chavez Day, Asian American Pacific Islander Month, Juneteenth, and Pride. In July, cultural intelligence and unconscious bias training was offered to all employees, and future trainings are planned for November and December. Employee resource groups were established to provide space for employees to discuss shared life experience and support each other, and we've recently launched guidelines for more affinity groups to be established moving forward. Every few years, SANDAG updates its language assistance plan, and this document outlines the measure we'll take to assist people with limited English proficiency, or LEP. We follow federal guidance to make language assistance available for all projects and programs, important to note, regardless of whether that project or program is federally funded. So we make translation and interpretation services available to people who don't speak English very well. 1,000 speakers is the minimum threshold for what's called safe harbor protection that's established by the federal government. And in the San Diego region, there are 17 languages that meet that threshold. Non-English speakers range from more than 245,000 Spanish speakers to an estimated 1,000 Ukrainian speakers. So it's a pretty large variance of those 17 languages. And an offer of free language assistance is being added to a variety of public outreach and informational materials, including your agenda for the meeting today, if you noticed that. Just want to take a moment to recognize that tomorrow is International Translation Day. It's a time to celebrate and recognize the work of language professionals who play an important role in bringing our communities together, facilitating dialogue and understanding, and strengthening inclusion. I want to thank all of our bilingual SANDAG employees and CBO partners for their help in advancing linguistic equity, and to our interpreter, Luisa, who is on the call here today. We know there's a difference between translation and interpretation and service delivery, but it's all in the family of language assistance, so want to celebrate her as well. So as I mentioned, every SANDAG employee can help fulfill our responsibilities to provide language assistance and advance equity and inclusion here at SANDAG. We've created a new SharePoint page to support this work, and it includes a variety of guidelines for employees and resources and links to translation and interpretation request forms, how to log our interactions with people who don't speak English very well so that we can report on and see how we're doing, and other resources that will continue to advance our offer of language assistance. So in terms of next steps, I think it's important to remind you, if you're not already aware, that one of our core values here at SANDAG involves embedding the advancement of equity and inclusion in everything that we do. And we consider today's presentation to you just one milestone on that DEI journey that we are all on. I highlighted for you several activities that continue to demonstrate our commitment to equity. And I want to let you know that implementation of our language assistance plan is underway and will be ongoing until we do our next update in the next 3 or 4 years. As our equity action plan continues to come together this fall, we're going to continue to look for opportunities to advance diversity, equity, and inclusion here at SANDAG, and want to make sure that we can continue to provide updates to you and to your outreach team as well. This is all in pursuit of the brighter future for everyone in the San Diego region that has been envisioned through SANDAG's vision statement above me here on the ceiling here today. So that concludes my presentation, and I'd be happy to answer any questions. We're planning to come back to you later this fall when our equity action plan is ready for review.
Thank you, Elizabeth. I'm impressed. This was a very good presentation. Thank you. Any of the working group have any comments or questions on any of this? Goyo?
Hey, thanks, Elizabeth, for the presentation. I just wanted to make a quick comment, going back on my memory on our lab workshops with the community. One of the biggest, I think, relationships we need to make, that we have to make, is the relationship between language assistance and the digital divide. I think one of the biggest comments we had on, we always, in our workshops, reference SANDAG's website, which is full of information that you really have to go through, right? And it's very, very robust information. But it was, one of the main comments we had was the difficulty people had with accessing the translation. It was like a hidden button in the corner there. And it's just a comment I wanted to make because it's just a small thing, but it would make a big difference. And we constantly do send folks and to find that information and have access to that. So I just want to make that comment. Thank you.
Would you like me to provide any updates on that, Chair?
Sure.
Okay,
Yes.
so our website has been under redevelopment now for quite a while, and I am thrilled to say that we are very close to crossing the finish line. November 15th will be the next go-live date for the first iteration of the new Sandag website. The Google Translate option is being added to all of our web properties in a consistent place. So whether you go to Fast Track, sandag.org, Regional Plan website, Go by Bike website, it will be in the same place across all of our web platforms, and all 17 of the languages that are in our safe harbor list will be part of that as well.
Great, thanks, Goyo. Elizabeth, thank you. Any other, yes? Erica?
Hi, thank you. I was just curious if there'll be an opportunity to learn more about the open data portal. Could that be maybe a training for the CBO network meeting, or has it been done that I missed it? But I'd be interested in learning more about that.
Yeah, I'm sure we can follow up with staff. Tori?
Yeah, we can follow up with the data science team and see if they can come and do a presentation or a training.
Any other questions? Comments? I have a couple of comments. I'm not sure, but I'm just throwing this up there. Is there any value to have this group look at some of these equity-oriented plans before they get implemented? And the best example is the one that just popped up with unveiling the website. From an equity lens, if we may be able to take a look at that as it may be in the design of this. I mean, we can, you got us here, you might as well use us, right? You're paying us to get into and to share feedback on equity from an equity lens to the process. Let us do that. And some of the things I love to hear was, you know, you had planning down as one of the equity action plans, and prioritizing and funding, and those issues are really important, not necessarily as they apply to these organizations, but these organizations' communities, like prioritizing from an equity lens some of the projects, right? Some things that are truly equitable. And what you guys have done and what you're doing is like lightning years. And I have this conversation with a lot of other organizations, and you guys are not even, I mean, you're way ahead of them. There's a whole lot of organizations that are dragging their feet with this. You guys are jumping in, and that's really good to hear. You talked also about some of the data, Elizabeth. I just got to, and I do this with all the groups I work with, is do we get, and maybe not because this is regional, but do we look at data from a census tract standpoint at all? Or does it just stop at the zip codes and regional area? Do you know?
I'm pretty sure the
offhand?
open data portal has it at the census tract level as well, but if you have a specific question, happy to refer that to our data experts.
Just if they do it, great, because that just helps boots on the ground, so we know what's happening more specifically in our neighborhoods. Go ahead.
Sorry.
That's all right.
The housing team is working on a housing policy.
Two things. A, who are you? And please use the microphone.
Sorry. Stacy Cooper, Senior Regional Planner in Sustainable Communities.
Okay. Hi, Stacey.
In terms of the report that she talked about, the social equity baseline report, that was all done at a higher level. We do have access to that data at a lower level and are working on, I can't remember the exact name, the housing policy and planning tool. Okay, which will have that type of information at the track level up to the jurisdiction level, and I believe even higher.
Nice. Good, good, good.
It's a work in progress.
Okay, excellent. Thank you very much. See?
And it also might be available on the Open Data Portal. I haven't dug in enough to it yet because it was just released recently.
Well, if we have any questions, we now know who to call. Thank you very much. The last thing has to do with housing from an equity standpoint, and it ties into the public comment section that I read this morning in the paper that the city, two things, the city and the county were actually planning on meeting and discuss housing, which is the first time they've met together in 22 years. Wow. This is not rocket scientist stuff, you guys. We tend to make this so difficult. That's probably one of the best decisions they've made in a long time. And they did it because of Sandag, apparently, of the friction that's going on in the board that you had mentioned earlier. I'm not sure, but the equity working group, again, we have a space, a place in that space, perhaps. I'm not sure where. I'm glad they're meeting. I do not like the fact that they're meeting because there seems to be some pushback on our board. So I guess, you know, as I'm sitting here talking, I want maybe us to later think of a time and a place and maybe make a presentation to the board and put a stand down. How do we feel about it? But we'll talk about it and vote on it, and then maybe come up with a presentation to get some time on the board and share with them. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
We can at least discuss it and see if that's something we can do.
Yeah, I think we would want to discuss and know specifically what you're
Right.
wanting to present to the board,
Exactly.
the action that you're wanting to take, and then we can discuss that with the chair of the board for when they set the agenda.
Okay, that works. I think we have someone, is there any other comments at all? Oh, good, okay. Carol?
No, I just wanted to comment that we did the LAP focus groups right before the contract ended. So I appreciated seeing that included in the plan. So thank you for showing the results of those focus groups.
Yes, ma'am.
Hi, Elizabeth. I just want to thank you for that presentation. Being new to the board today, I wanted to just get a little bit of clarifying information on the transit pilot. It's, you know, very successful. I'm hearing really great things about it, seeing really great things in our community. But I did hear you said it's I guess, secured until June of 2023. Is there plans for anything after?
Sure. Well, I'm looking at our expert over here, Brian Lane, the project manager.
And you thought you can get away without saying anything, huh?
I was hoping. Brian Lane with Sandag. Yeah, at this point, it's the pilot and it's paid through, and we're hoping actually next July. We have another month or so extra. At the moment, we're working through trying to find more funding to make that permanent, as well as, you know, a directive from Hassan and others to find funding for 24 and under free youth. So we're working through it. It's a lot of money, and finding permanent funding for it is not as easy as this pilot temporary funding. So we just had a meeting yesterday internally to talk about it and try to look at all the different funding sources. At some point, and we got a request from we have a working group who meets every couple of weeks, unless I cancel it, which I do more often than not, sorry. But they've asked us to, anytime we're going to start talking about that, to include them. So we have a small working group of a couple folks from this group and a couple of others from outside who meet and talk about this. But as soon as we know a little bit more, we'll bring it to that group and start talking about it, and then probably come back to this group at your next meeting or in December.
Thanks, Brian.
I'm used to the warming up. Good, good, good. Okay.
So Chair, I noted a few of your comments kind of have some action items, so I'm happy to follow up on those.
Thank you, Elizabeth.
And I know we were both at the cause conference, I guess last week, the week before. Just wanted to share and to manage expectations of what our equity action plan will be, right? This is the journey that we are on. It's for continual improvement, really intentional, meaningful change. Our plan will be a plan of plans, right? Like it will be a number of actions that each individually may need their own plan of anywhere from 1 or 2 months to 1 or 2 years perhaps to implement. So as we continue on that journey of bringing the plan together, please know that that might be the finish line for the document, but it is only the starting point for all of that work that will continue. And Barry, the quote that the keynote speaker gave, I carry with me, right? He said, we can no longer move fast and break things. That's not working. We need to move intentionally and fix things. And I think that's the spirit through which this team has come together to prepare this plan, and the plans of the actions that will come out of the plan that will be developed from this point. So thank you for the opportunity to share the update today.
Great job, Elizabeth. Thank you. I think we have a comment on item number 5.
Yes, we also have a virtual comment after Mr. Balash.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for the report and for the success. I really, really am impressed. Thank you. Item 5 is up equity action plan and language assistance. I wanted to raise a few issues. They're not well organized, but my father was my parents were elementary school teachers. He emphasized reading. And so I'm just going to mention a couple of things. I think everyone living in San Diego should have 2 languages under their belt. And maybe that second language could be mathematics, because if you learn math, you have to learn some English. North County, I'm aware of students that speak no English at all in our school systems up there, is the reports I hear. So it's not just a down county problem. And I am a physician, so I'm about brain equity as well as network access equity. And I am an old school. I think books are great teachers. They help your speaking as well as your learning. And if you only read at a 3rd grade level and you're an adult, you're essentially not able to access a lot of the things that you're trying to get to people. So I wanted to just mention that. I have tutored English and French and math and science. I'm available. I have some ideas I could offer. Again, I find it difficult to plug in as a public when you're not part of the formal structure. So I would just offer that. If you know anybody, I would be willing to talk. As well, at the international border, perhaps this bleeds over into item 6, but people coming across the border, traveling every day, or on our public transportation, to me, that's a captive audience for learning. I mean, we're sitting there either not talking to each other because it's too loud, but services that take computers and attach to cell phones and translate for us when we cross the border, or, I mean, that's a huge, it's easy to say those kind of things, and to implement them, and because of the technology even, but to think about those as opportunities for people to get to know each other. I mean, a lot of the violence as a physician that I see is either impairment or wrong ideas about what is going on. And if you're not part of the community, if you don't understand the language particularly, I offer that as something just to think about. And I think that's it. So thank you.
Thank you so much. Any other comments?
Yes, Craig Jones, you can go ahead, please.
Thank you, thank you. Those of you who know me know that I've got to participate here. I look forward to the availability of the Equity Open Portal with its data, and hope that that's advertised broadly from SANDAG, not just to these meetings, but by email, for example. Before Brian spoke up, I was going to note that his subcommittee continues on. I continue to serve on that. It's my pleasure to do so. I wanted to ask Brian if the work of your subcommittee is going to continue on after the period of the Youth Opportunity Pass and address other equity jumpstart issues, or what are the plans for the ongoing work of that committee?
Brian, would you like to address that?
Sure. And how does Craig get out of having to come here like the rest of you?
I don't know. I was thinking the same thing.
Right. Thanks, Craig. Yeah, I'm not exactly sure. Our meetings are scheduled through the end of this calendar year, I believe. It was specifically for the social equity transit pilot, and so pilot's the key word. I think, like I said, when we come back with, there's other ideas that you all had of ways we could continue to do social equity pilot in terms of transit. So I think we may restructure the group, probably come back to this group and ask for another subset of folks or other volunteers outside of social equity working group to come back and continue some sort of new meetings. And Tori and I were meeting with a couple other stakeholders recently with some of those requests. So I think we'll circle back with Tueri, the chair, to talk about how we continue a new group. So the youth opportunity pilot one will continue for, probably through July, because we still have the study and research effort, as well as the CBO funds that we're going to get out for the education outreach. But then after that, probably transition to something else with maybe most of the same group, but maybe some new folks as well who want to participate.
Thank you, Brian. I appreciate it. Maybe one of the things that can be discussed at your committee is funding for the Youth Opportunity Past program past its pilot phase to see if we can make it permanent. Thank you.
Thanks, Craig. Any other comments, questions? And we could move on, I think, to item number 6. We'll now hear an update on the request for innovative concepts from Danielle Kochman from Sandag. Danielle, it's all yours.
Good morning. My name is Danielle Coachman. I'm the manager of strategic partnerships in the regional planning department at Sandag. I get the exciting opportunity to work on figuring out how to bring innovation and new transportation technology into real life projects. So as you're hopefully all aware, last December, we adopted our 2021 regional plan. And it was truly a transformative vision about what the future of our transportation system could look like. Then we're faced with the problem of how do we implement that? Implementation of transportation infrastructure and transportation services is challenging and becoming more and more challenging. We also have transportation technology evolving at a very rapid rate. We all saw, Uber and Lyft, our first inaugural ride was about 10 years ago, and then, a couple years later, it's mass adoption and almost everybody's using it. And to be honest, the government wasn't prepared for that, from a regulatory standpoint and from an infrastructure standpoint as well. And so looking at all these different things and how we began to deliver the regional plan, we had the idea to do a new type of procurement, what we called a request for innovative concepts. And basically what we said was we put out to the private sector, this is our regional plan. We made a bunch of data available to them as well and said, put together some teams, put together engineers, innovators, transportation technology companies, equity partners, and come back to us with new ideas about how you can partner with Sandag to deliver the projects that are in the regional plan. We didn't have any geographic restrictions. We didn't tell them where we wanted their project or how we wanted it to look, but we did give them 5 key transportation challenges for them to consider. We asked them to look at some things that we knew were issues, the Blue Line trolley corridor, one of the busiest trolley corridors in the nation, which has pretty slow service between the border and downtown, so how could we improve that? Also, decentralized employment centers. We have job centers in Sorrento Valley, downtown, Carlsbad, all over the region. And it makes it difficult to really promote shared modes of transportation to serve those different centers. Also downtown connectivity. We do have trolley and bus service downtown, but there's a lot of other places downtown that are inaccessible by transportation. For example, to get from the convention center to the trolley is from the convention center to Balboa Park is pretty challenging. So looking at that greater downtown area and how we could connect a little bit better. And then also east-west connectivity. There's not a lot of public transportation that serves some of our corridors. We have the the Green Line trolley along the 8 corridor and the Orange Line, and then the Sprinter up in the north, but there's still a lot of congestion on those corridors and a lack of services to provide those key connections. So those were all the direction that we gave them. And then we said, tell us what your ideas are. I talked about all this already. We got 18 proposals, and they were really diverse. That was really exciting to me. We had things that I won't talk about today. We had proposals around gondolas, and quite a few different types of autonomous vehicle services. We put together a team to evaluate the 18 proposals, and we evaluated based on these criteria that you can see here. And then we prioritized them and interviewed and ranked and ended up interviewing 8 project teams and then selected 3 to move forward into phase 2. And I'm going to go through those 3 teams with you in a minute, but just to kind of explain how the phase procurement works, how we set it up. We said the first phase, give us all your ideas, so it's kind of an open competition. Anybody can move forward. The second phase, we picked 3 teams, and those teams, we began to collaborate. We began to give them some feedback about their proposed concept, what we know that they may want to consider, and then ask them to further develop it. And they're going to be due to resubmit that on the November 11th. So the first team that we are currently collaborating with is, and I'm calling it like an exploratory phase. They're learning from us and we're learning from them and trying to make a decision if a potential partnership would be a good idea. So the first team is led by a company called Beep. This is their autonomous shuttle that that is kind of central to their concept, but it really expands beyond that. They touch on the flexible fleets concept in the regional plan, and then also the mobility hubs, because they're looking at nodes within their service area where they can provide additional infrastructure. They're looking at particularly infrastructure to support electric vehicle charging, not only for their vehicles, but also for just the general public. So they're looking at areas where they can improve the community both by providing this transportation service and also providing electric vehicle charging where there might not be sufficient currently. And so they emphasized from the beginning a commitment to equity. They're looking at serving, all the mobility hubs that we identified in our regional plan, but, really wanted to address equity initially with their pilot projects. And they are talking to different jurisdictions and right now are in conversations with 3 jurisdictions. Those are National City, Imperial Beach, and El Cajon. We've had 1 round of discussions with each of them and are scheduling meetings right now. And the interest from the Beep team is to move forward with all 3 for the initial pilot. And the good news is they aren't asking for money from the jurisdictions. So all the jurisdictions are pretty excited. They have equity partners that are bringing financing to the project and are planning on financing it against future revenues from land. They're asking for potential right of way from the city, and they can generate revenue from that that can fund the project. And then also the electric vehicle charging as well. The second project is being proposed by a team led by Cordoba, and they're looking at extending the Blue Line trolley into Tijuana about a mile, where it would terminate at, I can't remember the word, but I'm not allowed to call it a pre-clearance facility anymore. So whatever the new word is for pre-clearance facility. Same idea, but Customs and Border Patrol doesn't like that term because that means a lot of work for them. And we're looking at a way to really kind of streamline that clearance prior to boarding the trolley. So there would be a secure area where you would board in Mexico and then go through Customs and Border Patrol in advance, board the trolley, and then on right away, most likely above grade, enter into San Ysidro. They also propose some some intelligent transportation solutions to include in their project as well. This will provide additional passenger information so people can really make good travel choices about how they want to do their commute or whatever they're traveling for that day. So is it going to be faster to walk across the border and board in San Ysidro? But, you know, really having the active component where you can collect the data, get out the information, and manage the transportation system so that people have choices about how they're going to do their trip that day. And they're also looking at the San Ysidro Transit Center and creating a 2-story mobility hub there that would serve a variety of different types of modes. So incorporating some flexible fleets in there as well. There would also need to be, you know, another facility for clearance for people going the other way in San Ysidro. And so this concept is really looking at improving travel choices, easing congestion at the border, and improving air quality in that border region. The last project proposal is being led by Cavenu, and they are doing something a little bit similar if you have some time for research in Michigan. But they have a team that they put together that they're looking at delivering the next generation managed lanes. We have managed lanes on I-15. They were, you know, one of the first managed lanes that opened in the nation, and you know, since then, haven't done a lot to update them. And there's a lot of new technology that can make them operate better and also prepare the infrastructure for connected and autonomous vehicles. And so looking at, you know, how these lanes could be flexible, assigned for different uses at different times of day or over the course of, you know, different times, like maybe months, years, needs changed, and we would use them for different things. But, you know, there's a possibility it could go transit only for a period of time or freight only for a period of time, but really giving us that flexibility to adapt more because technology allows us to do that and continue to change without having to spend a lot of money on new infrastructure. So they're looking at getting managed lanes ready for connected and autonomous vehicle transportation in the next, by 2026, and then also showcasing how they can improve transit, both the speeds of public transportation and the reliability of transportation. So really showing how we can give true priority to public transit in these types of corridors. They also included a partner that would help look at additional feeder service to the corridor. So how do you connect with public transportation or, you know, smaller shuttles or even as small as, you know, passenger vehicles, if that's appropriate, but getting that shared service to get people from the communities to the corridors. All right, so the next steps, we already had a networking event, and that was a really fun new thing that we did. We had each of the project teams, they were pretty full already, but we're interested in hearing, you know, who else was out there, and did a quick, you know, 5-minute speed dating where there were about 13 other, for each, they had like 13 speed dates where other companies wanted to talk to them about how they thought they could contribute some piece of technology or, you know, something that the team hadn't thought about to their project. And then we are having, on this slide, it says Transportation Expo, but it's now called the Community Fair on October 9th at Royalco Park. And each of the teams is going to be doing a presentation, about 15 minutes of their concept to get, you know, people more information about it, get people excited. And then they're going to have booths where you can go and talk to them, tell them your ideas, tell them what's important to you. They're there to kind of listen and iterate on their ideas while they work towards finalizing their submission, which will be due a few weeks later. And then we are going to, we anticipate, I'll say, bringing recommendations to the board for consideration in December, at the December board meeting is what we're looking at. And so, you know, what that looks like is we would bring a recommendation as far as some type of agreement or role of how SANDAG could facilitate a partnership or participate in helping to move these projects forward. They're no longer competing against each other. We could move forward with 3 of them. We could move forward with none of them or anywhere in between. This phase is, you know, really about feeling out what the risks are to the agency, what the risks are, you know, to them, and also making sure that there's a lot of stakeholder buy-in. Are people excited about it? Is there going to be, political will to make these projects happen? And what else could get in the way of actually delivering those projects? So that's where we're at. I hope you all are planning to come to the community fair on October 9th. I'll be running around like a crazy person, but come say hi. And I can take any questions or comments.
Danielle, thank you. Thank you so much. Okay, questions? Belen?
Thank you. How is outreach being conducted for the community fair?
Oh, outreach for the community fair. I know, and I don't know if there's anybody from communications to talk about it. I don't know if we're flyering, but I know we're doing lots of social media and radio advertisements. And if anybody knows anything differently, please speak up. Social media, online, and radio, I've heard.
I see. Is this the first time you're hosting this type of event, or it's a recurring model?
We've done community events around specific projects quite a bit. Like we had the Mid-Coast Transit opening, and this is really the first time that we're trying to give people more of an insight to what Sandag does with more than just one booth. So we're gonna have tables for all different types of projects where people can really understand all the different things that we're working on. So we've done community events before, but usually it's really specific to one kind of topic or one area. And this is really all about Sandag.
Right. Great. Yeah, I just want to make sure that the invitation is truly reaching the people who are going to be serviced by these projects and all these ideas, right? And in addition to the community fair, what are the other opportunities for the public to comment on these 3 projects we just saw?
Right now, it would be, through the board meetings. We're in transportation committee meetings where we've had discussions, and we've been doing, the, what do I call it? I've been going out and doing all the presentations at the different working groups and task force meetings. There's also been for the individual teams, not, for the entire, how to explain this? So I'm the project manager for the process, right? But there's the 3 individual projects. And so those are all doing their own kind of discussions with different like EDCs or community groups, depending on what's appropriate for them. So like all together, it's been at the Sandag type of forums, but I know I can come up with like Cordoba, for example, the binational trolley. They do, they go to like 3 meetings a week, basically, to talk about and hear about their concepts, sometimes with government, and then sometimes it's with different community groups to get feedback. But also love any ideas that you have as far as, getting out there more and hearing more feedback.
Okay, excellent, thank you. Yes, well, we work with several partner organizations who are invested in the Blue Line, and I personally enjoyed all of those 3 projects. I think they're very creative. So thank you for the presentation.
Thank you.
Carol?
Thank you for this presentation. And I think because of the lapse in our contract time, this is the first I'm hearing about BEEP and El Cajon. So needless to say, I'm thrilled. I'm very excited about this project. We did all of these community transportation needs assessments and surveys over the past couple of years, getting ready for the regional plan. And I think besides the language, the second one we heard the most often was the need for a shuttle service. And so needless to say, I'm very excited about this because we've been in conversations with Sandag about flexible fleets. So I would just like to offer, we have several community groups in Arabic, Spanish, and English who would be interested in this information. And if they want to do community outreach, please reach out to the El Cajon Collaborative for that.
And when we spoke with the city of El Cajon, they had some very specific areas that they were interested in getting served. There's a need there.
Yeah, and we also are sharing the event on our social media page and with our community partners, which is over 500, so.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Everybody share the event on your social media page, please. I was instructed to do so this morning, and as soon as I get on Facebook, I will. Going. Share.
Bay?
Yes, I would like to echo what Carol had mentioned. This is also the first time I'm hearing this lovely project, so thank you. And so we would also like to extend an invitation to the Filipino and Asian communities who will benefit much from this kind of innovative ideas.
Great.
Yes, and I also just echo all of what they said, but especially, I think it's called the BEAT team. And so in Imperial Beach, there's a youth group right now that's going through the Resident Leadership Academy that's very interested in the transportation piece and lack of during, the peak hours. And so I'd really like to match you and whoever's working in the Imperial Beach to have them have a voice in that also.
Fantastic. I'll follow up
Thank
with you. And I think my email is on the staff report. So everybody that has, community groups and different organizations to put me in contact with, please reach out.
Yes, Erica?
This might be a dumb question, but do we have the legal framework to allow autonomous shuttles already?
Yes. So there's passenger transportation with autonomous shuttles operating in San Francisco currently. The team that proposed BEEP is not currently permitted with the California Public Utilities Commission. And so they need to get there and are currently working on it. And we talked about that yesterday and how we could support them, but it's like a 6-month to 1-year process typically that they are in the middle of. So yeah, there's, evolving regulations around autonomous vehicle operations on our city streets, and it's going to continue to grow. You can't pay a fare. That's one thing. Not that it, makes a difference, but it's currently, you're not able to have autonomous shuttle service that you would pay a fare for. It has to be free.
Any other questions? Anybody from the public? Okay.
We have in-person public commenter, and we also have a virtual commenter, Craig Jones. Go ahead, Dr. Tim Balash.
Thank you again, committee. I appreciate that exceptional support from Danielle, report presentation, so thank you. It's some exciting projects, some ideas. I am as excited about new tech as anybody, but I'm also an old school person. As I said, I love books because I think that's where we begin to understand things outside ourselves. But I wanted to make a plea to consider undercarriage charging of these electric vehicles, and perhaps in the assigned lanes for the public transportation or for high occupancy vehicles. It's been presented at several other meetings. I'm aware, I just pulled up an article last week, I think in Minnesota. So it's being done at other places. And some of the objections I've heard to the electric vehicles or infrastructure projects or things are about, well, I don't want to pay for other people's stuff. So if you're in a high occupancy vehicle in one of these lanes, and you're charging, not only may that be cost effective, because we put in a home charger with a 220 output, it takes 8 hours to charge a Tesla. And that's 8 hours that you can't drive the car. So we're not just thinking about the cost of the electricity or the cost of the buying the things, but all the costs of utilizations to be figured in with that. And it's not exactly in the transportation realm, but since we're using home chargers for some of this, we put in this system, it converts the DC to AC, shoves it into the network, the grid, and then we take the grid AC and convert it back to DC from my computer. Well, that's highly inefficient, and I haven't heard a lot of talk about the technologies or the pluses or minuses for my using DC directly off the roof during the day, for instance, or something. So I wanted to bring that up in terms of rooftop solar, home charging at home versus public charging when you're on these new routes, And when I looked at the antennas for these, they don't look like very expensive infrastructure. They're loops that are connected to a grid along the sides. So in a cost-effective manner of those things, if I drive my car and I get free charging when I come from Escondido into San Diego City, that might be an incentive to tip people's ideas for a vehicle mileage assessment. I just wanted to mention, I'm not sure, but it seems those type of things are not available for operations, but those are only new infrastructure. So this issue of having to operate these things after we build them may also be also, can we retrofit gas engine cars with electric motors? Thank you.
Thank you so much. Before we move on to item number, we have one more public comment. Is that Craig?
Yes.
All right, Craig, that was just a guess.
Good guess, Barry, good guess. Two things. I also have interest about the BEEP project, the BEEP service, but first, Danielle, I wanted to ask, the array of providers and services that you presented, is this the same as, or is it different from and overlapping with the SANDAG project of identifying preferred providers for each of the types of flexible fleets modes? Is what you reported on, is this the end result of that work, or is there going to be other or continuing work for each of the kinds of flexible fleets modes?
This is different, Craig. When we did this procurement, it wasn't specific to flexible fleets. It was just about delivering projects in the regional plan. BEEP service is a flexible fleet service. A different project or effort that we have going on is to procure a pool of flexible fleet providers that would, be able to address services for each of the different flexible fleet types. And though that procurement is being made available to, all the jurisdictions and all of our partners, so we can look at different ways to partner with our cities, with our transit agencies, with our community partners, and we'll have a pool of vendors there that can provide whatever service we think up, basically. And that's something that we can use, but we don't have to. If there's a city that wants to do a flexible fleet service and doesn't want to use the vendor in our pool, they can do their own procurement, but trying to streamline that so that we have vendors easily accessible to provide these services.
Right, great. I'm glad to hear that's continuing on too. What's the timing of the release of that list of providers?
I heard an update yesterday, and I believe it was the end of October is the best guess. They're currently negotiating contracts, and for whatever legal reason, we have to have contracts negotiated with all of them before we can release the list.
Understood. I'm coming up on 50 seconds here. For the BEEP program, did I understand correctly that moving that forward does not have any funding from SANDAG, but with the three cities, National City, Imperial Beach, and El Cajon, that they are providing the funding to move that forward for each of their jurisdictions?
No, they're private equity partners. So there's no public funding.
Very interesting. And I'm interested to hear more when it comes available about the cost per ride of the BEEP service. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Craig. And before we move on to item number 7 really quickly is Danielle, I got 2 requests. One, maybe using equity as a criteria on the actual forms that you are measuring. Not so much for the internal SANDAG folks, but the folks that are applying for these grants. It would highlight equity as a major factor in that.
It did, and it was in our criteria, and what my oversight was I summarized our criteria into a few bullets to fit it on the screen.
Okay.
And I should have highlighted the equity piece, but that was a big component of the evaluation.
And the last one is with Project One with the flexible fleets. I would love to see a pilot program of some type in southeastern San Diego. You can merge it to National City since we're right next to each other.
Correct.
Okay.
We've talked about that as well. That's a big need there.
Okay. So if that can happen, or if I can help in any way, let me know.
Will do.
Okay, thank you. Item number 7, we're running out of time. We only got 5 minutes, I think, left, so. Oh, we have 30 minutes. Oh. Excellent, great. Then I won't feel rushed. Okay, item number 7, Housing Acceleration Program Cycle. Stacy, looks like you're back up with us.
I am. Once again, Stacy Cooper, Senior Regional Planner in Sustainable Communities. I'm here to talk to you guys today and get your input on the Housing Acceleration Program Cycle 2 evaluation criteria. So we had talked about the Housing Acceleration Program back in April with the Social Equity Working Group, and a few of you were invited, or most of you were invited, and some of you attended some of our workshops with WSP over the summer to give feedback on the program as well. But since we have some new members and it's been a while, I thought I would give a little bit of an update on the program. So the Sandag Housing Acceleration Program provides grants and technical assistance to local jurisdictions to accelerate housing production, as well as promote equity and sustainability. The HAP Cycle 1 grant, funded by the REAP Early Action Planning from the state, awarded $1.9 million to local jurisdictions for planning projects. REAP 2.0 was established as part of the 2021 California Comeback Plan, and it's intended to build on the success of REAP 1, but places a greater emphasis on implementation activities and also brings in our climate goals. So Sandag's formula share in this program is $43 million to support transformative and innovative projects that accomplish 3 main goals. 3 main goals, which I'll get into. Accelerating infill development that facilitates housing supply, choice, and affordability, affirmatively furthering fair housing, and reducing VMT. So here's our timeline. The guidelines for the program were released in July. We're here talking to you today. It says sustainable communities instead of social equity. To get your input on the draft evaluation criteria, in October, we'll be bringing the criteria to the board. Then we'll have to submit the criteria along with our application for the full funding for the program to HCD in December. We're hoping to get approval in early 2023 so that we can release the call for projects for the jurisdictions. And the expenditure deadline on this program is pretty quick. It's December 31st of 2025. So as I just mentioned, these are the 3 objectives of the program, and all of our proposed uses need to fulfill all 3 of these objectives. So general eligibility for the program for the jurisdictions is the project must be located within a mobility hub, a transit priority area, or a tier 1, 2, or 3 employment center. The project has to fulfill all 3 of those goals of accelerating infill development, housing and VMT reduction that advance equity. And they have to commit to development with anticipated completion within 5 years of the expenditure deadline. So some of the example uses for these projects are increasing housing supply choice and affordability, are rezoning, updating planning documents, developing bike and ped infrastructure. All of this has to have a nexus to housing and accelerating of housing production. So planning projects and capital projects are both eligible for the program. You guys can dig a little bit deeper in the presentation if you wanted to have specific questions. And then, so if you turn to the Appendix 1 in item 7, you can see a little bit further built out the evaluation criteria, but here's the draft screening criteria. So it has to be located in one of those specific areas. The project has to be supportive of increased infill residential development, reduced VMT, it has to have an equity component, and they have to commit to expending the funds by the deadline. So here's sort of the condensed version of what you can see there. So the 3 criteria, the program accelerating infill development that facilitates housing supply, choice, and affordability, reducing VMT and AFFH are the top 3 point allocations on that, because those are dictated from HCD. We also have a community engagement component, partnerships, matching funds, and then our board policy 33, which applies to this program. And our board policy 33 has to be 25% of the total points, and how that's broken out now is pro-housing policy of the jurisdictions and housing equity of the jurisdictions. So those are the draft criteria for planning. Similar for capital, except we have also in here project readiness. And as you can see, because board policy 33 needs to be 25%, we've upped those points as well. Does anybody have any questions?
All right.
Who was first? Okay.
Hello, thank you so much for this presentation. I'm just wondering, where does the Section 8 and public housing come in your plan? Is it part, how does it fit in? Because we have been at our clinic serving public housing residents under Section 8 vouchers, and it takes about 10 years to get. How many now? 15 years to get into the program. So is it part of your plan to include Section 8 and housing as part of your plan to expand affordable housing?
Do you want me to jump in here?
Yes, please.
So Faye, that's a really great question. The funding from the state of California, the eligible uses of it are for planning projects only or infrastructure. So it has to be a project that's going to be developed, either, transportation multimodal projects or housing development itself. So it can't be to support voucher programs. And there's a couple of other things, but just specifically to answer your question, it's planning dollars and infrastructure.
A follow-up question. Is it possible to have some communication between these policymakers who give out these dollars where Section 8 is really integrated into the affordable housing plans? So it's not segregated, because it's really a big need among our patients at Samahan Clinic.
Yeah, I think we're happy to provide that feedback to the State Department, Housing and Community Development. This grant program is a one-time grant program, so it's not actually ongoing funding. It came through legislation through Assembly Bill 140. And so this is a continuation of a previous one-time grant program through Assembly Bill 101. So it doesn't have continuous funding supported for it. This is something that's unique that the state is trying to give funding to regional agencies in order to help accelerate housing production and really help the regions to fulfill their regional housing needs assessment numbers in the region. So we can certainly give the feedback to the state, but the program was only designed as a one-time grant funding opportunity.
Erica? Then Goyo?
I was wondering if there's a map available of where, what areas meet the criteria that you laid out for the transportation centers.
I do have one. I don't have one right here, but I can follow up with that.
Okay. And then my other question would be, so this wouldn't build any actual housing. This would go to the cities to develop infrastructure to.
So this is one part of our program. So with this $43 million, we have to put together all of our proposed uses. We're still working through that. We have to do a great deal of community engagement, outreach, talking to stakeholders. This is one portion of that. Not all 43 is going to go to the local jurisdictions. A portion of that will. We're also looking to sub-allocate money directly to developers.
Oh, okay. Is there, and forgive me, I don't know a lot about housing law, but I get very discouraged when I read about developments and it's only, 10, 15, or 20% that are allocated as affordable. Is there any way to incentivize infrastructure with jurisdictions so that they up the ratio of affordable units and developments that they approve, so it becomes closer to 30 or 40 or 50%?
I don't know that we would have any of that control over the local jurisdictions, but in terms of the funding for this program, we can target those funds to higher affordability.
Yeah. And I would just add too that the jurisdictions do have their RHNA allocation numbers, which has the significant amount of housing that we need in the region is focused directly on very low and low income and moderate housing. Cities are a little bit at the mercy of the private sector in terms of what they're submitting their projects for in development, but the cities are looking for a lot of ways to incentivize affordable housing development. And as some projects are looking for a lot of stacking of funding to make their projects pencil out, they're finding that they need to increase some of that affordable housing units to make them eligible to receive some of the state funds that are coming down. A lot of the funding from the state, you have to have affordable housing into your project in order to be eligible to even apply for a lot of the state funding. This program included really is focused on affordable housing and housing choice and supply.
Goyo?
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to I have a couple of questions, but the first one is, you mentioned that REAP 1.0 was allocated to local jurisdictions. Do you have a little detail of how that money was used?
They were planning projects. We have a link on our website that actually goes through the applications and what the jurisdictions are working on. There were 7 jurisdictions that were awarded funds specifically. I can't really speak to those projects, but I can send you a link to what the jurisdictions have done with that money.
Well, I will appreciate that. The second one is, Casa Familiar is also actively working on a anti-displacement strategy as a developer. So we met with Terry and with Allison regarding REAP and the availability of those funds, because we're looking at many avenues, as you mentioned, the stacking. We're very close to pre-development dollars. And part of our biggest, I mean, I'm just venting, I guess, a little bit, is the way affordable housing works, or financially, it's very constricted to how developers work and who gets to access to those funds, the LIHTC, part of what we're looking to do is to create Casa's project to be a pilot project in the state. We already have support from the governor somehow, and to really see if like CLT models can tap into those resources and have more community-based development projects. So I'll be happy to continue the conversation on access to some of these avenues.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Thank you.
Okay, I have a comment, of course. One of the things I'm noticing at least in southeastern San Diego, there are some developers that, are certainly being motivated and incentivized for building affordable housing units. There's a little dance that's going on. And I guess it's better to use honey rather than vinegar. But so maybe putting in some sort of an incentive for access to money by some of these developers to include some sort of community engagement. Now, locally within the city of San Diego, there's a ministerial agreement, and so if it's consistent with the community plan, they generally have no requirement of coming to the community for anything. And I personally, and Valencia Park and a bunch of other communities are concerned. There's one development that's being considered that's doing something that is doesn't make any sense to anyone who lives there. That's putting seniors on the ground floor of these affordable housing units in an area that's probably not too safe. And so we've got to bring that up, and we're actually getting pushback from developers for that because that's more revenue for them if they could rent that first floor. So there is no balance with this. I mean, if developers, and there's not everyone, right? But there's some that are coming in that could really, I'm just interested in throwing these babies up and keeping it moving. This is not my community. I'm not getting held in checks and balances with the planning group.
So
that's given us a license to kill, if I can steal James Bond's little thing.
So the criteria that we're looking at here is for the local jurisdictions only. We will be, as we decide what we're going to do with the developers, we will have to put together, I mean, it'll obviously be similar criteria, but they're not subject to board policy 33.
Right.
So there will be some changes in the criteria. So you're suggesting that we include more points to a community engagement. Okay. Anything in particular, anything specific? Is there, you know what I mean? Like, is it X number of meetings? Is there anything specific that you want to add to that, or just make community engagement worth more points?
I don't want to make it a pain in the rear end for them, but they have to do some degree of notice, right?
Right.
And even if it's through like a newspaper, some kind of notice that this is what's going on. We're holding public comment in this day at this date at the library. And if you're interested in giving us input, here's your opportunity.
Cool.
That'll just give us some degree of boundaries that we could work within, because people put in anything. I think I'm preaching to the choir. In our communities, it looks fine in the first couple of years, but then after that, man, we just got a bunch of nether apartments that are crazy. And if we can sort of manage a little bit of that from the beginning, you know what I'm saying? That would be helpful.
Okay.
And then I got one other comment, since I think we have a few. We're not, this is it, last agenda item? Are we gonna? Oh, but let me just ask you this. So I referenced that article earlier today. Did you guys are up to speed, why the city and county are meeting and what's happening? Give us a 30,000 foot level of what's going on.
I'm going to let Tori take that one.
So I will say Sandag is not invited to the meeting, so we are not there. We are planning on going and providing public comment about what Sandag is doing in the housing space. And as you know, our board is made up of the representatives of the cities and the counties, so at least some of our Sandag leadership will be at that meeting. But my understanding as a non-participant in the meeting is that they're really going to be looking at publicly owned lands and how they can accelerate affordable housing development on lands that are publicly owned. And so that's what my understanding of the purpose of the meeting.
Okay. And then I'll leave it alone, but let me ask this. So how does Sandag, why aren't they at the table? I know what they're going to be doing, and that's you don't have to answer. We can read about it later, but I was really curious as to why our family was excluded. What's going on? Is mom and dad fighting or something, or what?
I don't have an answer for that. You can only read what you saw in the article, and that would be all that I know as well.
Excellent. Okay, good. Thank you. No more questions on the housing acceleration? Oh, we do have one. Okay.
And I just want to echo kind of what Barry was alluding to in the community engagement piece and holding maybe some sort of needs assessments where the community can be surveyed and asked about what they want in that region. And that could be, you know, disseminated through all of us here, whatever region, but really working with the CBOs also to help support with that outreach.
Great, thanks.
Thank you.
And I just like to add one thing, because when you brought that up and then you saying it again, Rachel, we are working on a kind of a networking, pulling together members of the CBOs as well as, and beyond just the ones that are sitting here in our working group, to also come together with some of the affordable housing developers to talk about the REAP program so that you're in a room and able to have these conversations with the individuals who would be applying for that other set of funding that we're talking about. So we actually are working towards planning something like that for the end of October. So we'll be sure to share that information once all the plans and details are worked out. Obviously, as we're getting used to being a Brown Act group, we'll need to figure out terms of who is attending, but we will be sharing that and are planning to pull everyone together and have a joint discussion, developers and community alike.
Any more questions, comments? Okay, moving right along. Item number.
We have.
We do have one.
We have a member of the public that would like to speak virtually, Craig Jones.
I was good, Craig. Craig, you're on if you're there.
Very good. Now I'm unmuted. Just real quickly, the screaming need for affordable housing is at the low and very low income levels. Is there a way to see that these REAP dollars are used hugely or exclusively for production of low and very low income housing?
Craig, yeah, that's definitely something we can consider as we put together this call for the developers. We could look at different thresholds of different levels of affordability.
Again, I'm involved with the Quality of Life Coalition and their housing committee. That's where the housing is needed, is at the low and very low income level. So I encourage everybody to push for that. Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, I think we're good.
That concludes the commenters on this item.
Excellent, thank you. Moving on to item number 8, update on the Kumeyaay Corridor Comprehensive Multimodal Corridor Plan. April, you are online with us, I believe, correct?
Yes, I'm here. And I'm here with Melina Pereira from Caltrans. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I have my video on, but I don't see me, so I hope that you guys can see me too.
Can
Hi,
see.
everyone. My name is April, and I'm a mobility planner at Sandag, and we are here to introduce you to the Kumeyaay Corridor Comprehensive Multimodal Corridor Plan, and I'm the co-project manager for this project.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Melina Pereira, and I'm a senior transportation planner at Caltrans and the co-project manager with April on the CMCP. It's great to be here.
Oh, next slide. So in September of 2019, our Sandag Board of Directors allocated funding for the 11 corridor plans throughout the region. And we started with 6 of these CMCPs. 4 are currently under development and 2 have been completed. Our corridor plans evaluate all travel modes and transportation facilities, to reduce greenhouse gas emissions and increase travel choices and balance transportation improvements with community impacts. These CMCPs are required for state funds like SB1 and can be leveraged for other regional transportation projects. Next slide. So these are the steps for our CMCP project schedule. We have completed our existing conditions and we are currently gathering community feedback. Social equity is a really important factor for our project, and your input is crucial to help inform the recommendations that we develop. So in the fall, we plan on taking the community feedback and develop transportation solutions that we are proposing, and we will bring them back to the Transportation Committee and our public engagement in the spring. And we anticipate developing the draft report early next year. Next slide. And this is the project area. In the dark purple, you'll see the project area, which is a 2-mile buffer around Interstate 8 between the Bay and Lakeside. And the length of our project area is about 24 miles. And then in the light blue, you'll see that we have a project area of influence, and that allows us to include influence from the populations that are further east, which include communities of Alpine and the tribal communities of the Kumeyaay Nation. And then in this, the dark purple line, you'll see the Mission Valley Community Planning Area. As part of this project, we also received a Caltrans planning grant, which is a partnership with MTS and the City of San Diego. And this that grant is going to identify and prioritize near-term mobility needs. And it'll focus on transportation services and access options that decrease congestion and improve travel times for that area in and out of the Mission Valley community. And it's just coincidental that the timing works out. So we're able to leverage that funding and support the Kumeyaay Corridor CMCP as part of that effort. And now I'm going to pass it on to Melina to provide additional details about our project and our engagement efforts.
Thank you, April. So understanding travel patterns is really vital to providing a transportation network that fulfills all users' needs. So this slide summarizes regional travel flows as they relate to the Kumeyaay Corridor. Out of the 11.4 million trips occurring in the region each day, over 30%, so that's approximately 3.45 million trips, start and or end within the study area. So of those 3.45 million daily trips, and if we can move to the next slide. Thank you. So approximately 6% of those trips are by people walking, 1% on bicycles, and the remaining 93% in vehicles. So that's including single occupancy cars, carpooling, rideshare, and public transportation. So it is important to note that over 1/3 of the 3.4 million trips are for distances less than 2.5 miles. So with the appropriate infrastructure and technology, many of these trips can easily be converted into active transportation or short transit trips.
Melina, can you perhaps speak into your audio a little better? You're coming in and out.
Oh, sorry about that. Is it better now?
Much better. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Next slide. So Sandig and Caltrans are using a number of public engagement methods to collect feedback on transportation needs and issues. Those methods are identified in this graphic. We have created a virtual engagement hub for this project that is dedicated to providing updated project information and opportunities for you to participate. You can use your smartphone to access the Kumeyaay Corridor CMCP site. And on this site, you can take a survey about transportation in the corridor. You can leave a comment or ask a question, and also complete an interactive mapping activity. So far, we've already received over 125 responses, and some of the top concerns are centered around traffic congestion, cleaner transportation, and transit availability. So this survey closes on October 14th, and the interactive map closes on November 4th. So we encourage you all to get the word out to your groups. We also have a series of subject matter expert meetings with social equity focused communities, public meetings, community planning group meetings, agency coordination team meetings, and we're working with different groups and committees. Next slide. So your feedback is very important to the success of this corridor plan. We hope that you can participate on our virtual engagement hub. And again, the QR code is on this slide as well. So your feedback will help us develop recommendations for this corridor. I would also like to mention that we had our first community meeting a few weeks ago. And if you missed that meeting, that video is posted on the same virtual engagement hub, both in English and in Spanish. And this slide also has our contact information, so you can call, text, email, submit online comments, or connect with us on social media. We would like to thank you for having us here today, and we're happy to take any questions.
Excellent. Thank you very, very much. So any questions, comments? Let's start with us first. Go ahead. Carol?
Hi, April and Melina. It's Carol with El Cajon Collaborative, and we're excited to see you on Tuesday at our meeting. But I was just curious, the survey they can take online, will it be offered in other languages as well too? So our families in El Cajon can participate in that?
Yes, so on the Social Pinpoint website that Melina referenced and we had on that last slide, there at the top right corner, there's an option to see the Spanish translation. And if your community would like us to translate it in other languages, just let us know through this contact page and we'll get that translated and interpreted for your request.
Okay, because I know we're going to need it in Arabic as well too.
Okay, thank you. I'll note that, and then I will follow up with you on that as well.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Rachel?
Hi, everyone. Thank you for that presentation. I wanted to ask also just to kind of a little bit bounce off of what Carol was talking about on the surveying, because we know that the technology gap between many that are traveling on the bus and the systems and the public transportation. And so how are you addressing those that are actually on the bus? Are there surveys that are being conducted in grassroots type efforts? Many of our families and our communities they just don't have access to that type of technology or understand it in all the different languages. So how are you reaching those populations?
We are actually going to be at the Sandag event on October 9th. We will have a booth where we're going to have surveys available, and we're also going to have a map which will allow attendees to take Post-its and mark different locations of where they want us to look. And we're trying our best to engage in as many ways as possible to spread the word through CBOs and different working groups like this. We really hope to get as much feedback from everyone in the community, so we're hoping that you could also support us in spreading the word. And if you need any additional interpretation materials, we'll work with you to provide that too.
And just to add to what April was saying, we are working very closely with MTS. So we can put the QR code and the flyers in the buses too, so we can talk to MTS to maybe get the word out that way. So our transit users in the corridor can provide their feedback and we can get that information over to them.
I just want to make a suggestion that maybe digging a little deeper and maybe having some type of footwork out there, paper to pen type of surveys also, because they're missing a really large population through that technology gap.
Thank you, I appreciate that. And if there are any specific events that you did have in mind, if you could share that with us, that would be helpful too.
So can you help me wrap my head around 11.4 million trips a day? If there's over just 3 million people in the whole county, what are these 11 million trips?
So the data from these trips are inclusive of those that are circulating within the project area, and then those trips that are going in and out of the project area as well.
And this also includes tourists. You know, we have a lot of tourism in the corridor. So it's not just people that live and work. It could be people visiting from out of town as well.
All righty, thank you very much. I think we have a comment from the public.
Thank you, committee. Timothy Bylash, actually Central Coastal San Diego County. Just a quick question I'd like to get an answer at some point. This was a great report. Just very clear, but also that information. The 8 million that were shown, I guess I wasn't quite sure. These are public transportation travel trips. These include cars. These include all all trips that are saying in and out. And I would particularly be interested, 8 million is a huge number coming through. And I've heard some objections to some of the developments in the transportation plans down around this corridor and other parts of San Diego from people maybe in North County maybe, or even outside. I presume some of these are coming from upstate or commercial traffic as well. So I would be interested in the modes that they are, and also whether they come from other parts of the county, outside the county, East Coast, Mid-County, West County, those kind of things. If they're available somewhere, I'd appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for that comment. And we can follow up with additional details at our future presentation.
Okay, and I don't think there are any more public comments. I've got one specific one. When you were talking about the corridors included, the one that comes to mind is, Carol, you may know this one, it's in the East County on Spring Valley where 94 and 125 merge. I think everybody that's been there is backed up to College Grove going east and west going past Grossmont High School is the backup. Is that in this area? Do you know offhand? Spring Valley, La Mesa area, 125 and 94.
Just barely.
Yes, that should be included as part of our project area. And if you want to check out the social engagement site and put in your comment with the location just to test it out, that would be great. If not, I'll also include it as part of our feedback to the team to look closely at the congestion at that location.
We'll do both. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay, that was item number 8. Item number 9, one of my favorite topics. Possible topics for next meeting, plural. If it's not next meeting, meetings moving forward. Any ideas? Yes, Faye, please.
I'm interested in getting some updates on digital divide and connectivity.
Good. Goyo?
Maybe also an update on the San Isidro Mobility Hub and the status of that. I think it's a region, affects the region, right? Not just San Isidro.
How about just a general update on the mobility hubs?
Hey,
So we'll
I'm all
see
for that.
how all of them are going. That would be nice. That's good. Yes. Erica?
I think it's part of the plan already, but the date on the pilot youth opportunity pass program, but I think that's already scheduled.
Glenn, you got any suggestions?
I'm thinking, did we want to discuss the road usage charge, vehicle miles traveled fee, or not?
The what? One more time?
The road usage charge, the vehicle miles traveled fee? And sort of what the stance of this group is on that?
That would be good conversation to have, I think.
Can I ask a clarifying point? Do you want to just have it as a discussion item amongst this working group to just talk about it? Or are you looking for the presentation that was brought to the board to, I guess, because the board has decided, and so staff has been directed to remove the road usage charge from this. So maybe we can do this offline, a little clarity on just what you'd like to have presented since we've been given board direction.
Okay. Barry, what do you think?
Yeah, I think let's see, I don't know if there's anything we can do about it, but at this point, let's just get an explanation of what it is and maybe future opportunities.
Yeah, we would agree, just so we have an understanding of what it means.
And that's critical especially in the climate plan with cities, counties, and agencies. Okay. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think it would be good to talk about the South Bay to Sereno. CMCP went to the Transportation Committee a couple of weeks ago. It would be great to kind of just get like an update or next steps.
Nice, good.
I just wanted to add to the youth opportunity pass. I'm curious to know if there's a threshold of usage that would help push it to be long-term. So if that could be part of the discussion of like, okay, if usage is better, but it's at this rate, there's not going to be support to make it permanent. But if we can get it to this level, there's going to be more support for ongoing funding.
Yeah. Carol?
Actually, I have a couple. Brian, if you could bring us some information on the senior mini grants that were being put out there so we know what areas they will cover. We have the biggest challenges in East County as far as mobility for our seniors, so it would really help to know what the results of those grants were. And then also MTS, I was involved this summer with a listening tour with MTS on social equity. And I know we don't get MTS and CTD at the table very often. So maybe as they're developing their equity plans and stuff, they could bring information to us on those equity plans.
MTS specifically?
Yeah.
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 Hey, this is the group I know, huh? Anything else? I've got a couple. One is third-party grants for our community projects. Let's ask some questions about where we can access other revenue streams. There are different organizations and departments that are working on grants, and I'd like for us to be included from an equity standpoint of us finding grants to partner with them and for them to find grants to partner with projects that we have in our communities, okay? I know, for example, Sandag's got a department, but it's, I don't think, designed to do this, so we're asking them to look at it as a potential opportunity. Quite frankly, the mayor's office has a grant department that goes into finding different funding streams for projects in our community. Now, how many knew those existed? You're the only one. Faye, you knew it existed too. Okay, so I knew nothing of that. So let's open up the book and take a look at it. It may help us, it may not. And I think we're gonna need some help on housing, since it looks like we're moving into that, and I'm not a housing expert, And I think all of us could benefit and start with Housing 101, right? On affordable housing and then funding streams and anything else that those folks that are involved in housing thinks we should know. Any questions that we're going to have coming up? Okay. All right. Any other questions, suggestions, comments? Anybody from the committee?
Yeah, Barry, I
Rachel
wanted to
first.
ask also on the housing, I wonder if there's some way now that the county has declared it a health crisis, and if somehow we can combine those efforts and understand more and ensure that the projects that they're bringing out are also equitable.
Yeah. And I think on the same page, that's critical, because I think this housing thing, we just need to talk. It's communication is a huge part of it. Okay, is there any questions or comments about topics that you all would like to see in the future? I guess you guys count as public too? No?
No.
Okay.
So we can ask the clerk if there's public comments.
Okay. Any public comments? There's one?
Yeah, there is. That would be Craig Jones.
Okay, go ahead, Mr. Jones.
Actually, I didn't have any other comments, but Barry, I appreciate your effectively moving this meeting forward. Thank you. Look forward to others.
Excellent. You're welcome, Craig. And there's one more public comment. Is that in-house or digital? Virtual? Okay.
Kim Henley, go ahead.
And I just, sorry, Lisa Kim Henley from Bayside Community Center, and I just wanted to acknowledge the appreciation we have for putting forth affordable housing as the main topic of consideration join. I actually meant to chime in at the beginning with the public comment up front. The Linda Vista Planning Group has created an affordable housing task force, and we put forth a report that was put out back in March of this year, identifying 3 different strategies that we're really interested in pursuing, certainly one of which is community land trust with Boyle and his team in Casa, and Joe are taking the lead on. So we're really interested in pursuing this, and we'd be more than happy to come and present our ideas to the group as well, or at least to listen in and continue to be a part of this important dialogue and conversation. So just wanted to thank you, Barry, for continuing to keep that at the top of everybody's radar.
Okay, excellent. Yeah, I think all of us are going to benefit from the housing question, because this is a new addition, I guess. Yeah. All right. We good? Looks like we're a little after 10. So next meeting is scheduled for Thursday, October 27th. Probably same time, same place? Same time, same place. So is there any other questions, comments, any really quick announcements? Really quick. Any upcoming events? Excellent. Thank you all very, very much. We had a very, very effective meeting, I think, and I get to hit the gavel. And we are adjourned, ladies and gentlemen.
It's the fun part of it.